In today's video, I'm going to talk about the Lectric XP, one of the most popular bikes on the channel, definitely the most popular e-bike. People are starting to receive theirs and get some experience with them, and I'm receiving some questions. Going to answer the most frequent ones, and also talk about my experience a bit, so let's dig into it. By the way, the static noise in the background before someone complains, that's my air conditioner. It's October. It's not supposed to be 100 degrees in October. We're supposed to have things like 79 in Alabama, but it is what it is. So my air is going to be running throughout this video. Out of the box, the XP is factory locked at 20 miles per hour. To get it up to the advertised 28, a computer setting needs to be changed. To get into the computer settings, press and hold the up and down arrows at the same time until P displays. Then use the mode selector. Go to page 8. And that 25 value, that's kilometers per hour. Using the up arrow, that can be set to 45. Now it will go above 45, but anything above 45 will display an error once it's in use. So set it to 45, go back to the main menu, power off the computer, and then turn it back on. That'll make the settings stick, and verify, going back in, looking at page 8, 45. Now it'll do 28 miles per hour. Next up, something I'm asked about more often than anything on the XP, and that's this bottle cage and where I got it. This one I stole off the Aventon Pace500, and I couldn't find the entire setup anywhere else, but I did find an alternative. So for the On-Way, which has a similar setup to the Lectric XP, I wanted a similar bottle cage. Ended up buying this Fantasy Life. I'll link this down in the description. Let me get this opened up because I want to show you one thing about this. Now, you want to make sure whatever you buy has this pivot out arm assembly. Get this loosened up enough to pivot it out here. Because if you don't, you're going to end up buying one that has a kind of a latch mechanism, which is the most common that I've seen, and that'll scratch this tube. This pivot mechanism doesn't, and it opens up big enough, and this goes out pretty far, opens up big enough to clamp around this, which is larger than a standard tube. And let me show you what I'm talking about when I mention that other clamp setup. Here it is. It twists on, you tighten it up, and then you clamp it. But what happens is that metal bar goes up against the metal and it mars it. So I don't recommend one of I have it upside down. I don't recommend one of these because that metal bar is going to mar it, and I know because this was on my On-Way. Now I have scratches all over it. Here you can see the scratches I'm talking about where I had that clamp, which is sitting right there. That clamp mount on my On-Way, which is a similar setup to the XP. I'm going to mount this. You can see I've got it screwed out far enough, and this will go even further for even bigger tubes, or if you wanted to put it lower for whatever reason, maybe multiple setups. But I open it up, clamp it on, and then I'm going to pivot this and tighten it up. And once it's snugged down, I'm ready for a bottle cage. Then it'll be set up just like my XP. Let me talk about the safety on this handlebar latch. Now this clicks in place pretty good. It's not really going anywhere, but there's this safety tab. Needs to be slid in. Now I've forgotten to do that before. Make sure you don't make the same mistake. Keep your bike as safe as possible. Now I'm 5'10". These bars go way up from the setting that I keep it at by about 8 inches. I don't have it anywhere near this high. That's about where I run it. So very versatile when it comes to the height of a rider. Same thing with the seat. I think that's the minimum insertion point. So let me see how much higher that is than my 5'10" setting. Again, about 8 inches. So 8 inches on both the handlebars and the seat. A lot of people ask me about tire pressure. The recommended PSI is 30, but this is a rigid fork bike, so it gets a bit bumpy. I run mine at 20. and that's on the front and rear tires. I'm asked often about changing a tire. How do you get the wheel off? Well, it's very simple. It's just like any other bike, especially on the front. There's just 2 nuts. Wheel drops right out, and on the back, same thing. 2 nuts. One just happens to be hidden here by a cap with a wire in it. The nut here, a nut on the other side, and then the wheel drops right out. The problem is getting it back in, because these big trailing arms and dropouts, they squeeze together, and it makes it super difficult to get this back in. I mean, really difficult. Plus, this is a heavy bike. Doesn't work well on a bike rack, so I turn it upside down and let gravity assist, but it also requires a screwdriver. There's a good bit of prying to get this wheel, get this opened up, to get the wheel in, and I contacted Lectric, and they said that's what they do. They use a large screwdriver and pry it open enough to get the wheel in. So just note that it's not very easy to get this back in. Comes out super easy. Getting it back in, a bit of a pain, but it does work. So after all this time, I'm having great luck with the XP. I haven't had any mechanical issues. The motor's still going strong, battery's still lasting great. There are a few little quirks though that I don't necessarily like, or things that you may want to modify that I've modified too. Let me share those with you now. Fender clank. Mine is a steel fender. There are aluminum fenders on the production bike, but even those can flex up because there's 2 mount points, one here and one here. Those will flex up, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a dent right there and some Mars. Fender was flexing up and hitting the bottom of the tail light. I tried to put some padding here, but it still made a noise. It was just a more thud noise than a clank. My solution, I showed this in another video, add some padding here. It just did so with Velcro. And that works great because the fender actually flexes here upwards. And that's what makes it clank. So you may want to put some foam there if you've just got a new bike, if you don't want it beat up like mine got. Since I'm back here, let me talk about this taillight for a second, because in my initial review I said that this was okay and it could be seen during the daylight, and it is just okay. But recently I had people riding behind me and they said they could only really see it when they were looking for it. So because of that, I always run a different tail light, like this one. Now this is orange right now because the battery's low. This is a new product from a company called Shanron. I will have a review on my KevReviews channel for this, but I'll go ahead and put a link down in the description so you can check it out. This thing does some cool stuff. Random odometer resets. Now, it was happening on the original M5 computer. This is the replacement to get it up to 28 miles per hour. It happens on this one too. It's only happened once on this computer, but it also happens on the Aventon Pace500, also an M5 based system. I don't know if it's some combo of button presses or what, but it's happening on 3 different computers and it's super frustrating. If you're having this too, comment and let me know, because I'm really curious if I'm the only one. The first few people that received an XP told me they had to have their key in it to work, which was odd because I can have my key out and it works just fine. And I asked Lectric why that is, and they gave me something about the battery lasting longer because it can be turned off when it's not in use. I don't like this. I mean, think about this. A whole keychain dangling down there, or you just have to have a single key. It just seems like a bad idea. I'm not a fan of this. I'm glad my prototype can run without the key. And if you've been following my adventures on the XP, you'll know that I added some softer grips because I ran into a problem with these factory grips, and I found out these are the actual factory grips, and man, they are hard rubber, not comfortable at all. And it turns out being up rather than down, these bars do on this long stalk, tended to have a death grip when going fast, and now they're thinking I've done some nerve damage. I can't do this with my left finger, and that makes it difficult mountain bike riding. So I swapped out for these wolf tooth fat paw grips. I'm not telling you what to do, but be careful with these. I don't want anyone else experiencing this because it's not fun. Now, let me talk about safety for a second, because there's one thing the XP does that a lot of other e-bikes do, especially with this M5 computer. There's a pace or a walk mode, and it's designed so that you can press and hold this and kick it into a walk mode and let it assist itself as you walk it up a hill. But the problem is, once engaged, it will stay on. don't know if you saw that, but it lurched itself straight forward and let me pop a wheelie, and I've almost knocked the bike over multiple times accidentally engaging that. I don't like it, and I wish companies didn't do it. Just be careful with that. Don't want to break your brand new e-bike. That pretty much covers everything that I've learned in my experience with the Lectric XP thus far, and answered a few questions that I've received about it. A good little bike. I think just a few small tweaks can make it even better, and one thing I wish they would do is release a version with a front suspension fork. That would make this epic, in my opinion. If you have any additional questions or there's something I didn't cover you want to know the answer to, be sure to drop a note down in the comments. I'll see if I can answer it. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. If you're subscribed, I appreciate it. If you're not, I hope you consider subscribing, and everyone should have that notification bell active so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Now I'm going to go back out and ride some more.